Hey guys, welcome to our first segment of What's New on Oracle Cloud, where we go through all the latest updates about services, feature requests, and some kind of cool projects we're working on. This will be coming out every Wednesday at around 11 o'clock. That'll probably be 11 o'clock our time here in Dublin. And this is the first segment, so we're going to kick it off. It's myself, Brian, here today, and I'm joined by my colleague Victor. So up to you, Victor. Do you want to get started?
Thank you, Brian. Yeah, monitoring is amazing. It's an amazing service that provides a measure. So if you want to manage your system, you need to know what's happening. And you can take a look into CPU, networking, disk, uptime, and with all of that information, you can figure out what's happening in your system, and that's brilliant. Another feature is that you can use a Grafana data source, so you can create really nice dashboards with all the information from all the services, and also your applications can create custom metrics, so you can even figure out what is inside of your application. And on top of that, you can create thresholds, and depending on that, you can create alerts. And those alerts will kick off notifications in the notification service. That is actually something new as well in Oracle Cloud, right?
So we have a new notification service that launched just over a month ago now. So on the 28th of February. It is a pub/sub style notification service. So you can have it subscribed to, say, HTTP endpoints for like the likes of PagerDuty or email notification lists. As it's going to be great for GDPR compliance, etc. It is a pub/sub, so you have to subscribe to the endpoint before you can get any notifications, which is obviously a big concern with a lot of people at the moment. This is brilliant for, obviously, as you're saying, any of the monitoring stuff. You can have notifications based on anything like this. This is where PagerDuty comes on. I know you come from a development background, same as myself, where PagerDuty and those sort of tools are a nightmare for any issues that are coming on with alerts or anything like that. But yeah, our notification service is really, really interesting. So you have your general topics, which are the endpoints you subscribe to, and then you have your message bodies, which are the messages sent to those topics. So it's a pretty standard pub/sub style service, but it ties in nicely, very, very nicely with a lot of other services. Mostly for me and for yourself as well. Alerting is kind of the big one it comes in with, because you'll have, if you have any issues, you want to find out about it straight away. But obviously, PagerDuty, it's going to be a nightmare for anyone who's on the receiving end of the page, but this will make their life easier in the long run. They can be first point of contact and first in line when an issue happens. So yeah, that's PagerDuty, or that's notifications pretty much in a nice little nutshell, and where it's going to be useful. So, what do we have next, Victor?
Another nice service is streaming. Streaming is a service that you can spin up, and then you will have ingest of high volume data. And that is really nice because it's fully managed, it's durable storage, and you can store, for example, interactions in your website. If you have a user that is using your website, that will kick off a lot of events, a lot of interactions between the website and the user. All of that information multiplied by the number of users, that's huge amount of data coming into your system. With the streaming, you don't have to worry about the scaling or anything like that. You will just store all of that information that comes from the website, and that's brilliant because you can do some analytics, and that works as well for logs and everything that is a huge amount of data coming into your system. And that's really nice.
Awesome. So some great services really coming out there. Next up for me anyway, which I found really interesting, was the service gateway, because a lot of enterprises and stuff, you don't want to have access to your services going over the public internet, because there can be security threats and stuff like that. So we've brought out a new service gateway recently, which means you can have your services not on the public internet, but on your private network through a VCN, which makes it really, really nice. Obviously, for people who are very concerned about security and stuff like that, it's going to make a big difference. This is obviously very true in enterprises. You don't want to have all your services to be able to be accessed quite easily over like a public internet, because you could get attacked or hacked, or like packet traces and stuff like that. So having it behind a VCN or your virtual cloud network is quite nice. It is in your public gateway then. Your VCN doesn't have to have like an internet gateway or not associated with it. It's all done over public IPs. So it's really, really, really nice. And it also means you don't have to have them on premise as well, which is cool. But yeah, so that's really it on the service gateway. It's it's really, really interesting. We have lots of new documentation about it. If anyone wants to look it up, we have our releases page for OCI. Take a look. There's some really cool stuff. There's constantly stuff coming out on this. But I really would recommend anyone to have a look at service gateways, especially if you're interested in networking and security. It's really, really cool.
Autoscaling is new as well in Oracle Cloud. You can spin more instances or less depending on your workload, and that's really important because you can keep your performance when there are peaks on the workload, and also you can reduce cost when there is a low demand period. That is based on metrics that you can put some thresholds, and then the number of compute instances will change depending on that. So that's brilliant.
Yeah, so really cool again, as I was saying. But our next thing that I found really, really interesting, obviously, if some of you guys have seen the previous videos on the channel and stuff, my main focus is around Kubernetes. So recently we announced that we're going to change our supported Kubernetes versions to 1.11.8 and 1.12.6. So these are two really good stable versions of Kubernetes. They'll be launched. They're launched on the platform now. This means, though, for anyone who's previously built something with OKE or Oracle Kubernetes Engine, you will have to update your clusters now because you won't be able to create new node pools for any of the older versions. But there are some really cool things that come out with version 11 and version 12. Version 11, you have the monitoring or the metric ports that are opened up into it, which is really handy and nice. And then you have in version 12, you have some security stuff as well, which is really cool. 11, one thing I really found interesting on this, I know, Victor, you find this interesting because you are big into your APIs. We have the introduction of Swagger templates, which is going to be really nice for building native APIs within Kubernetes, which it's going to be very useful going forward. But please do bear in mind, if you have previously built some stuff on Kubernetes, I know I've been spending my week this week kind of updating some of my clusters, you will need to move them into the newer versions because you won't be able to create new node pools or new clusters using the older versions. So I do recommend, I know I've seen on your account you have a few different things you've shown me using Kubernetes, so do update them, Victor.
In Autonomous Database, we have cloning feature that is just released, and it's really nice because you can create copy of your Autonomous Database for development purposes or testing or even for analytics. So basically you have your Autonomous Database running and you create a copy that could contain the data or just the metadata of the database, and that's brilliant.
And last but not least, I know this will be kind of important for you, Victor, anyway, not being natively an English speaker. We now have 29 supported languages in the dashboard. That's come up recently, so you can change your console completely into your native tongue, which is quite nice, especially for those who might not come from Ireland or Europe or have a secondary language. This is really, really useful. Obviously, for you, you might be more comfortable kind of navigating the console in Spanish, being from Spain, but obviously 29 languages, it kind of covers everything. So it's really, really good. We should have a language there for everyone. So yeah, that's everything from me.